welcome. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Eric's going to be delayed, so we'll get started. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you for coming. All right, let's get started. Reorganization of the committee, superintendent search committee. So we tabled this from last meeting, I mean. We need a representative from for the superintendent search. Mark, are you still interested in doing that?
Yes, I continue to be interested.
All right, so I'm going to nominate Mark to be on the superintendent search committee.
I'll second it.
All right, so all in favor?
Can I vote too?
Yep. Absolutely, you can vote for yourself.
Vote
All right.
for myself.
Great. So Mark, you're officially on the committee. Are there any public hearings? All right. Not seeing any. Move on. We're approving the minutes from November 21st. The only thing I will say about them is that there just seemed to be like a formatting issue. Let me just pull them up. The answer given to that?
They insurance, and it has nothing to do with the school, but that was kind of the general answer.
Okay, so we may need to look into that a little bit more carefully and then have an answer for that.
Right.
So we'll look into that. Same with mine.
Yep.
And then on the very last page, not to get too fussy, but
No, I highlighted it too, the
Yep,
all.
yep.
I saw that tonight.
okay,
Okay,
Which
perfect.
one was that?
right here. It's just we don't need
It's,
all.
it was a copy and paste from last time.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just change the headers on that, and I will get the new one
Does anybody else have anything else?
to,
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, just November 21st with amendments, with corrections.
Second.
And please let me know if I'm going too fast. I
Nope,
can
you're
definitely
good.
slow down. I appreciate you trying to write it all down. So we have a motion and a second. So anything else?
nope, that sounds good.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Get rid of that. All right. We have some warrants to approve. We could take them as a batch or individual. How would you?
Take them as a batch.
Okay. So we have payroll numbers 111, 112, and then we have some vendor invoices, 115, 116, 117, 18, 1107, and 1108. So
I move we accept all of these.
Okay, seconded.
You were seconding it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. No, it appears that there's no gifts we need to vote on. There are some grants. Again, we can take them individually or as a batch.
Take them as a batch.
Okay. We have a Title I grant for $40,092. We have a Title IIA grant for $4,556. We have a Title IV grant for $10,000. IDEA grant for $54,337. And Early Childhood IDEA grant for $1,601. So make a motion to approve that.
So moved.
To accept that, sorry, not to approve it, to accept it.
moved.
Yeah, all right, I'll second it. And anything else? Any other comments or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. All right. We do not have our Gil Montague representative. She did send a report. She's also the Franklin County Technical School representative. I do not have the report in front of me. Caitlin, are you able to call that up quickly? I was going to offer you one, but you have one.
It just came through, right?
Yeah. While we're looking for that, why don't we go, we'll move down to the Erving Teachers Association. We'll come back to that other report. Give Caitlin a minute to get it.
Do you want?
Is that okay?
Of course, it's
Okay.
over here. Do you want me? Can I sit right here?
Is she gonna be able to be heard?
Do you want me to?
Sit at the other table next to it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Looks like this one has a microphone.
Okay. So preschool, there's a lot happening. It's been everybody's been feeling the winter, crunch, but it's nice. It feels good in here. So here I go. I have some classes to report from. Preschool, we had families come in for our traditional gingerbread house decorating, which is nice because that hasn't happened in a while, to get the families in, and so that was really cute. Kindergarten, they've been talking about Erving and its community. They took their first field trip to the library last week and look forward to visits that will be happening once a month. It was lovely to have one of our kindergarten parents volunteer to join us on our first trip. Next week, we'll be visiting the senior center to bring them a holiday wreath and homemade cards that the kids worked hard to make. The kindergartners learned all about the Princess Pine. Yeah, spent a morning gathering the ground moss and then worked together to make the wreath for their friends next door. In grade 1, the class celebrated the first day of Hanukkah with a special treat. They had homemade latkes. In 2nd grade, the students decided to spread their generosity into the community again this year by joining in with the March for the Food Bank of Western Mass. They learned about different reasons a family may be food insecure. They raised money for the food bank and created signs in March to show they care for this crucial need for others. In 4th grade, I'm coordinating at the moment with the senior center and I'm looking to start a pen pal program with the seniors. So it's very much in the works, but hopefully we can get that going maybe the end of January. I think that kids would have a lot of fun writing letters and getting mail. So we're gonna do that. In art, 6th graders are working to transform the library into a forest space. 5th graders are creating portraits of their brains. And preschool is experimenting with light and shadows.
What is happening in the library? I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Into a forest space.
Oh, forest. Okay. Yep. I'm sorry, I just didn't hear you.
Yeah. I'm excited to see the 5th graders' portraits of their brains. That'll be interesting. From our occupational therapist, Leah Grace, a donor's choice project for a sensory hallway was just funded by donors from people in Erving. Thank you. I'm not sure who exactly. But the materials will be delivered in January to the school. So a sensory hallway is really fun, just a great way to keep kids focused as they're moving from one place to another, but they are also doing lots of right and left brain movement to sort of cross over the midline and appeal to the senses. So they're not just like picking and touching the hallways and or the halls. They've got a purpose to walk down the hall, and it's also something that works on all their muscles developing, so that's kind of cool. The reading specialists are into their 2nd round of providing literacy interventions across all grades. They're working within the 1st and 2nd grade classrooms in collaboration with classroom teachers as they implement our new literacy curriculum, which is called Into Reading. We've made the switch this year to the online platform of Dibbles through M-Class Amplify as a literacy screener. This has been allowing for close progress monitoring of students. The reading team is meeting with other reading specialists union-wide to align practices amongst the 4 schools and to support teachers in applying new learning around the science of reading. They are preparing for winter benchmarking in January. From the health office, Ms. Dubriel, there is a lot of sickness going around, but families have been very conscientious about keeping students home until they're feeling well enough to participate in school. A class dojo message was recently sent out to all families regarding a shortage of spare clothing items for the health room, and many families responded by reaching out to ask about helping out with donations. Families are very supportive of others and the needs of this community. Thank you. And that's it. Do you have any questions for me?
Do you just mind sharing that again?
Do you want me to just copy it and?
That, like last time, that was wonderful. Super easy.
Sure.
I
Great.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Perfect.
I
Thank
had,
you.
one comment to make, and it's definitely not a criticism at all, but the one teacher who went for the GoFundMe page, that amount would have been possible to find, I'm sure, within our budget. And I know, in fact,
Wait,
maybe-
I'm sorry. Hold on. Let's just make sure we say it right. A donor's choice
Yes, right,
project.
you're right. It
Donor
is a
choose.
different kind of page.
Thank
It
you,
is.
Donors Choose
Yeah.
project.
I actually have used it myself when I was teaching. But-
Yeah.
So I do know about, but I was thinking, on the one hand, it's a really good thing to reach out like that. And because it involves beyond just us. But I also think that, you know, if something's needed at that level of expense, I'm sure they could just come to us and we would have the money for it. It's less than $200.
I'm not sure what what the cost was.
That was what was listed.
Oh, that's what was in the,
Yes.
okay.
So maybe you could just bring back to the staff, I mean, the principal's not here, so if you could be kind of the representative for the moment and just say, if people are wanting to do something like that, you know, we would welcome them to come and just kind of share a little bit about it, and we'll see if we can fund it.
No, I mean, and I'm like saying, I'm not being critical at all.
Yeah.
Because I've used
No,
that
I
in the
don't
past
feel like
myself.
you are. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. We'd love to hear about, you know, projects that want to be done in the school, so,
Sure.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah? Anything
you.
else? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
All right.
Okay.
All set?
Yeah.
So we're gonna just loop back to the report of the Gil Montague representative and the Franklin County Tech rep.
I'm trying to think. I think the biggest thing that was shared with families in our district, and it was shared at Franklin Tech and at Gil Montague Regional School District, was the update around the tainted milk. So that has been taken care of. They're working with all the necessary people. I appreciate the quick response from Superintendent Colkeen to just keep parents informed of what was going on to help eliminate some of the extra information that was being shared out in the community. So it sounds like they did do samples. You know, they're working with the distributors. They're making, you know, finding a way to make sure that doesn't happen again. But none of the families here at Erving or within Union 28 were affected by that.
Right.
They weren't affected at the Franklin County Tech School,
Right.
and it was less than a handful of children that were affected by it, unfortunately, at Gil Montague. So I think that's the biggest thing within the last month that's kind of happened, and that was on the news. They're all kind of together. Let me see. Maybe it's all.
She was talking about the budget.
Oh, yep. Okay, so they're starting, so this is for Gil Montague Regional School District, that they are starting to work on the budget, and it appears that the contributions from the towns will not exceed 3%. Additionally, wanted you to know that the latest Franklin County Tech School meeting, they voted to authorize moving forward with a feasibility study for a new school. And with the Gale Montague Regional School District, they're interested in exploring the idea of the 6-town regionalization. What this means to Erving has not really been mentioned yet. However, the consolidation of the 6 communities will require approval from the town. So it's still undetermined what that means to move forward. I did see an article that they were looking to do a vote to kind of determine next steps. So are they going to move forward with that, or are they just going to leave it at the findings that they found and not do it? So we are not a voting member of that, but I know that there have been a few articles going around in the Recorder about kind of their next steps, and they did post something on Facebook about it as well. So I know when they came and shared here, they shared their Facebook page and their website, and so they've been making updates there. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I think just to clarify, the tech school is looking at building a new building to better meet their needs. They are one of the few area schools that actually have an increase in population, and so they've outgrown the building that they're currently in. So that is one of the reasons why they're looking at this feasibility study for a new school, because they simply need more room to accommodate the shops and also the increase in student population. So that's really great to hear around here. It certainly is a great thing to have in our backyard.
I gotta say, I very much enjoy reading the reports, because they've always got a lot of positive things stated in there. One thing that comes to mind, though, in the report is that they're gonna have a 3% increase in cost from Gale Montague, and I don't know how that's gonna fit in with our situation and our needs, but we have nothing we can say about it, actually.
Right. Yep.
Because we are not a member of that district.
We're not a voting member of that district.
Oh, here it is.
Well, actually, we're not a part,
Well, so we send a representative,
Right.
but they can't vote, so
right, but
that's what I mean.
Just report back to us.
Yep.
So the announcement that they made, the regionalization committee made December 7th, was that this January, the 6-town regionalization planning board will be voting on whether or not to recommend that a regionalization agreement for a new district combining Pioneer Regional and Gale Montague be drafted. Information on their findings can be found on their Facebook page and on their website. So it sounds like in January they are voting. So we'll keep our eyes out
Yeah.
for
Interesting.
that information.
All right. Moving on. The Collaborative for Educational Services report.
Yes. The meeting was actually a pretty quick meeting, which was nice. They went over, every year they have to do an annual audit of all of their financial standings and their accounts and stuff. So that they went over like line by line the audit, but basically it came back, they're in good standing. They've been increasing enrollment in some places, and they've been increasing program offerings. So there was an increase, say, in staff, payouts for salaries, and then decreasing in other areas. And they said pretty much that's exactly what you're supposed to see. They're not getting this huge lump sum of money and keeping it somewhere, because they're not allowed to do that. They have to follow all the rules on how much can be in the account and what those look like. So they passed with flying colors with the audit, which was really always nice to hear. And like I said, that was like the majority of the meeting. And then they are starting to go over the budget and reporting for FY24 and sharing some of those. They also send they say it's a brief summary, but it's also really long, so I'll forward that again to you. So you all can read on your own time, because it's not a brief summary, and we would be here for a while if I read the whole thing to you. But that was pretty much, they just went over that audit and then started talking about their budget and how things are going, but everything was in good standing. And the executive director is up for evaluation at the end of this year. So there's been a little talk about that. And they're also trying to decide what makes the most sense with his review on how often they want to do it and what that will entail. Because he is suggesting something, I think, a little different than what they normally did, just to be more efficient and keep all of the information. Like, I think he wants it more often versus not as long, just to kind of keep everything up to date. So once they have decided on that, I will report back on that. But it went well, and they're still doing virtual and in person, so it's nice to have that option to listen from home.
Okay, thank you. Regionalization update.
I guess I gave that.
Yep, I was gonna say, you did already give some information. Is there any other information that?
I haven't heard anything else.
Okay, all right. Capital Planning Committee update.
No report.
Okay, so I just have one piece of information about that. Get to it. The Town Capital Planning Committee, next meeting is on January 4th, and so they would like to know what capital projects we are, thinking that we're going to end up having. So we need to have that to them before that meeting so that they can have it for that meeting.
What time?
I don't know what time. We'll have to look that up. I only got the date, I didn't get the time. And then one other thing that did come up, and I don't want to step over you, Mark, so you can certainly jump in at any point, is that there was a recommendation from the planning committee, capital planning committee, to release back the funds that had been set aside for the shades and wait until we have an actual quote, and then resubmit a request for that amount, instead of holding on to this 30,000 that I think everyone agrees is probably not going to be the right amount. Give it back, start fresh once we have a clear quote, and then make that request at that point. And they did ask
So
if
start from square one, they're asking.
I mean, essentially, just so that they could free up those funds for other things in the meantime until we're ready with a quote. And then the question was, do you know, Eric, if a quote has been received, where we are in that process?
All I know is our last meeting, we talked with Caitlin from Union 28.
Yep.
And she was working with our janitor, and I haven't heard nothing since.
Okay.
So I don't know what's going on over at Union 28, but excuse me.
Yeah, so I think that's something for us to consider, is to whether we want to do that, whether we want to just release back or ask to have those funds released back into the general capital planning fund. Thank you. And then once we have a more clear understanding of how much it's going to cost for that project to go forward with that. So that would be something for us to think about. And then, Erica, obviously you're on the committee, so I'd want your input more.
So
I know.
let me reach out to Eric, and I'll have a meeting with Eric, and me and him will handle it.
Okay.
And I'll just leave Union 28 out.
Okay.
Eric, the time of that meeting on the 4th is at 7 p.m. and it's at Town Hall.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that.
So I am new on that committee as of last
Okay.
meeting.
And I'll consult with you on that.
So who is like the chair of that subcommittee? Is that you,
Yeah.
technically?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was me and Jen. So
Okay, so just make sure to add me to
I'll
when
text me, you
whenever
and
you're,
Eric will have a conversation.
when you're doing that. And we had gone back and forth about possibly doing that because we had returned the other money that we had looked through and said, hey, like, we're not doing that anymore, we're not doing that. And I remember us saying, like, leave that there, and it almost originally sounded like they wanted us to leave it there because they knew that we'd probably ask for more, but they didn't want that to be a barrier if we returned it and then had to ask for money and then them tell us no because there isn't money there. So are we hoping that doesn't happen, I guess, in a way?
I don't want to speak for the committee. This was
Okay.
just a point of information that I received. I think it's worth a conversation with them, and just get clarity on that.
Okay.
That was the suggestion that came to me, was that, that was their thoughts. But I think it's worth you guys on the committee looking into that and getting clarification on it.
And the only way it can be returned is through a town meeting. Because that was the other thing that we were told, is it had to wait for
Okay.
a town meeting to be presented and voted on.
Yep, and that's a good point too. So I think even more so then, I would ask that you guys clarify with them and what their thinking is, just so that we can all be on the same page. Again, they're not suggesting that project isn't gonna go forward.
Right.
It's just, they know, and I think we all know, that 30,000 isn't gonna cover it. And then Eric, just so that you know, I believe that the measurements of all the windows had been done a couple of years ago, so that work should be somewhere, and then it's just a matter of finding, whatever you want, and then going through the state, there's a state vendor for that.
I'm sure Eric has all that information.
So that's what I have for an update for the capital planning. Just wanted to throw that in. All right, is anything else? So you two are gonna
Yep.
get a meeting together, thank you.
I would point out that there's another meeting that we have to go that we're related to. It's educate for, where did I find it? There it is. Education Capital is involved in a joint meeting in February at 7 p.m. at the Senior Center on the 12th of February. That would be after that was settled. So that would be the next time something came up for us.
Yeah, yep. Yes, thank you for that. And then, I don't know, I just lost it. It'll come back to me. Okay, thank you, Eric and Caitlin, for following up with that. Superintendent report was sent to us. Basically, it just outlined the shared leadership goals, equity walkthroughs with the principal, the building, a building teacher representative, a director of curriculum, and the director of pupil services. The purpose of the equity walks is to look at and confirm or question areas that we need to build on in terms of equity across our buildings. So that is occurring. And then UDL, which stands for Universal Design for Learning, overview. And she says, when implemented with a lens of equity in a multi-tiered system, the framework has the potential to eliminate opportunity gaps that exclude many learners, especially those who have been historically marginalized. So she, that was her superintendent report. So just following up on the UDL. So if we want all students to have equal opportunities to learn, we have to be purposeful, proactive, and flexible in our design of instruction. So that was the purpose of the UDL, or the Universal Design for Learning overview, was to address any concerns we had there, or she had there. She also included a timeline for the school principal search. Starting the week of January 22nd, the job will be posted with the initial deadline of February 23rd. Starting early February, she's going to have
29th.
I'm sorry, what?
I said it's going to start on the 29th, posting 29th instead of 22nd.
Oh, okay, I'm
Which
sorry.
makes it's a little bit later, and which is a concern if it keeps becoming later.
Okay.
Do we have to approve the job application,
The job description.
the job description,
I've,
like we had to with the bus driver? Because she said we have to do that now.
yeah, so the hiring of the principal is under her purview. I certainly would like to look and see what the job description is. I think we should have some input in it,
yeah.
on it.
Well, yeah, that's
With the
my-
driver, I think because it was a brand new position,
Well, it's also.
was that. But I wrote down like request job description because I think that we need to be a part of that process.
Yep, I agree. So she will be having stakeholder meetings. community-based stakeholder meetings, school-based stakeholder meetings, and then a request for participation in the interview team. And then late February, interview team members will be notified. Beginning of March, the team will convene to craft interview questions. Mid-March, interviews will be conducted. And then late March, early April, finalists will be selected and visit the school. And then mid-April, with hopes the principal would be selected. So that
My big concern in this process is that she makes the final decision, and she's gone June 30th. That is a big concern to me, and hopefully to the school committee. So
I also would, the choice of a new superintendent, and that process is supposed to happen before that. So it's the new superintendent that,
yeah, but that new superintendent will not start until July 1st.
July 1st.
Right. So I did, when I emailed her for this request, I did include a question of could we offer the opportunity for the new and superintendent to be involved in the process at the very least. I would love to almost require it, but I don't think we can if they're not starting till later. So I really would love to have that opportunity shared with them, and that opportunity maybe to talk to community members or at least hear from them to kind of see what everyone wants to see in a new principal and what goals the staff have at the school and maybe what goals or thoughts the parents have and the community members, and because it's going to be a really important decision that's being made, and I think we have to, kind of include everyone and really think of the big picture because this will have a huge impact.
I agree, and I believe I'm making an assumption here that is the purpose of the community-based stakeholder meeting, the school-based stakeholder meeting.
Right, I'm saying include that new super.
Yes. Oh, no.
You know what I
Yep,
mean? Like,
yep.
As maybe to part of that if possible.
Yep, I agree. I also had questions, what will the makeup of the interview team be? Like, how many of what, how many stakeholders, from what, how many community-based? Will there be any community-based? Will it be school-based? Will there be school committee-based on that team? And then how will that team be chosen? Because, again, the request for participation, generally there are more requests than spots on the committee. So I'm curious how that will be chosen, how people will be chosen for that interview team.
Can we put it on some of that discussion, carefully phrased, in our February school committee meeting, which would occur, I think.
You want February or January?
Well, all the thing about stakeholder meetings and all that stuff comes after what would be our first meeting of February.
Yep.
So if we had on the agenda for the February meeting a chance for people to speak, then we might be able to, build into that, what the choices that, the survey, the stakeholder meeting, the request for participation, the interview team, and so forth.
So you want that in our January meeting, right? So that we have that conversation before these stakeholder meetings? Or
Well,
you
to
saying
have
you
it
want them
before
after?
all we'd have to do is have it before one February. The February meeting is before the stakeholder meetings.
It's not.
No?
Nope. Because our meetings are the third Tuesday of the month, and so that would be after these.
And we're going to
So-
have to change
Right, so
February
put it in
anyways
January.
because vacation.
Right, we'll have to adjust February because of the vacation. So that's why I'm asking, that's why I keep going back to
Yeah,
January.
you got the calendar in your head, I don't.
No, that's fine. So a bigger discussion in January.
Right.
In preparation for these things happening.
Yeah, not a decision type one, but one for feedback and input.
Okay. I think that's reasonable. So, Caitlin, could you put that in our, for a January agenda?
Yes. I don't usually touch the agenda, but
Nope, but if you just note that that's in
that
our
we're
meeting
requesting
minutes.
it. Yes,
Yep,
yes.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, in the minutes.
Question, can you just,
Yeah.
can you just, paraphrase what you were, I was trying to gather what you were talking about, in wanting feedback or giving input to the interview committee that eventually it looks like will be formed sometime the end of February. No? Yeah, sometime around the end of
Mid-February, yeah.
So, can you just say again what you were trying to add to the next agenda? I got a little lost.
I think, I mean, I don't,
I was asking that we have an item on our agenda for, not a discussion, but for people to give input to the, selection of a new principal. And that happened, it's not very clear from that timeline, exactly how much input who was going to get, and in what manner, and in what
Right, 'cause
way.
it looks-
So if it's discussed at a public meeting where people get a chance to speak regarding the, either wanting input, what they want in a new principal, whatever, it would then help gel what the, who the stakeholders are, what needs to go into the feedback survey. It would help the whole thing in my mind.
Sure, so, because it looks like, so on the 12th, the larger community will be able to do some sort of get feedback in a survey. Then, and a couple days late after that, then it'll be school-based people will have a meeting.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
And
So-
then,
oh.
so I would just add on to that, I would just like flesh that out a little bit more. So
Okay.
at our next meeting, if we had that on an agenda, Jen could, potentially speak to that a little bit more. Because the school-based meeting is on the same day as the request for participation. How is that gonna work? What is that gonna look like? And again, these are tentative dates. It does say that, subject to change. So I'm not gonna, nitpick the dates too much, but it's just flesh that out a little bit more. Like how is that gonna look? So I have a clearer understanding, and I'm hoping that others will as well. And
Okay, so you try to understand the whole process that the superintendent wants to run for the principal search. Got it.
And I just, because I'm hearing two different things from Mark and from Mackenzie, so I guess I will just share what I'm hearing. I don't think our meeting is the time or place for parents, community members, staff to talk about this in January. I think the purpose would be at the next January meeting for us as a committee to ask Jen Colkeen, superintendent, what this process is going to look like and clarification around that, not necessarily for other people to come and ask questions. Correct.
I got a quick question. The February 12th, is that so it seems like there will be meetings in the week of February 11th on the 12th and the 14th. And one is school-based, so that would not be a public meeting. That would just be school, which sounds right. The 12th, which is what day of the week?
It's a Monday, so the 13th.
It's the,
February 12th is a Monday.
so my question, so that would be basically a community meeting.
Again, I think it's a little bit unclear. It says feedback survey sent out, so that does not, to me, mean meeting. So that's, again, I think I would like a little bit of clarification on whether there's going to be a stakeholder meeting or whether something will just
Yeah.
be sent out to
On
the
the 12th,
community.
right.
And then who is the community? Is it school community? Is it Erving community? Again, so I would just like a little bit of clarification as to what that kind of all means, and then, and then if questions arise, we can address them. But I kind of agree. It's not really the time to have all sorts of people asking all those questions. That would take up the
All right.
entire meeting, I think.
Yeah, so January, I'm writing down that we are requesting we're gonna add it to the agenda to have the opportunity to ask Superintendent Colkeen more additional questions regarding the principal search timeline for clarification and information.
And that will allow enough time, before
Okay.
the rest of this stuff kind of,
Now I think
Gets
we're all
enacted.
three of us on the same page.
okay, good. Thanks for asking for clarification. Does anybody else have anything else?
One of the concerns that's been up in the superintendent search is, how many people are you going to get within what timeline? And how is that going to force you to push everything back if you don't have enough candidates by the time you want to do things?
Yep.
And
Yeah, and I think she kind of referenced that by saying, initial deadline being February, late February. I mean, I think you're right. You've got to have to see what kind of a pool you receive, candidate pool you have, and then adjust from there. I think it is early enough, though. I mean, it is kind of in the timeline of a lot of schools when they start putting out their ads. It's kind of around that time. So I think that we should get a nice pool, but that remains to be seen. Anything else for the principal report? The superintendent report? Nope, okay. Director of Finance and Operations, sent a report to us. Mentioned the Improving Ventilation and Air Quality Grant. We did receive a $100,000 DESE IVAQ grant. It's a grant to look at the HVAC system. They did, Caitlin and Mariah, our town planner, and Bill Fisk met with a representative from Eversource, that's the electric company, to work with them on looking at the HVAC system. And they're looking to have Eversource kind of partner with them on this project, and hopefully that will help streamline this project a little bit. So they are just waiting for Eversource to get back to them with another meeting date and some information. So they're right now we're kind of in a holding pattern until we can get that information from Eversource. There's some different expenditures related to our invoices, and that was her report. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I just had a couple of questions that I'll mark down that they're questions, and we'll just have to get answers after. But I know, like office supplies, it was noted that almost $940 was spent on battery-operated wall clocks.
Yes.
And visitors badges, and my guess is the majority of that money is the wall clocks.
It was.
And so my question is, I've been in many of the classrooms. It seems like there are issues with the clocks that are currently on the wall that are hardwired in. And so my question would be like, is there a bigger issue that we should be looking at? Should we be taking care of that instead of just keep buying wall clocks as a Band-Aid fix? Obviously we need to know what time it is, so it's not that wall clocks were bought is the issue, but that larger picture of, is this a capital thing that needs to be brought to the attention, so that way we actually have working clocks in the building. So
Gotcha. Yep, I agree.
that I kind of marked. And then I noticed that our special education contracted services with James and Levine and Associates and with the collaborative, we're in December, and I don't know if this is like a monthly bill or a couple months, but it's pretty high. And so I guess my other question is, could this amount that we're paying out be decreased if we had certain positions staffed at the school?
Yes.
And kind of what is being looked at and how is that, being handled. I know that there will always be that need for consultants because we're never going to have that, staff for every single assessment or observation or, those different types. So it's not that they'll never happen, but when we're spending, $14,000, and I don't know what the time frame of that $14,000 and what that covers, but that just seems high. High in the sense of, is there a way to kind of manage that cost some other way? Yeah, so those were my only two questions about all the things.
Great. I think those are good questions. We will look to get the answers. Principal report. I have it here somewhere.
I have it if you want.
Yeah, do you want to just go ahead?
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
must have just
So
misplaced it.
enrollment is at 124 students at Erving. They have the Savings Make Sense opportunity. I believe it's with Greenfield Savings Bank. That was December 6th. December 7th, kindergarten had a field trip. December 14th, the preschool students made gingerbread houses. Tonight is a school committee meeting. Kindergarten's going on another field trip on December 20th. There is an all-school sing on Thursday, December 21st, which is this Thursday at 2:30, and all are welcome to come to that. And it's an early release on Friday, December 22nd, which I believe is at 11:30.
Yep.
Was that on the calendar?
Yeah.
It was.
And then there is winter break from December 25th to January 1st. We have welcomed Angela Haynes as a long-term substitute for music. And in here, he had posted that they're still continuing the search for a school counselor, a school psychologist, or a BCBA. I thought at our last meeting, Caitlin said that they were really close to that. So I don't know if something had changed or what's going on for that. So that was my only question from his report, was just, I noticed this was dated December 5th. So, it has been a little bit since then. So I don't know if something has changed or maybe it fell through or whatever. So just some update around that, I think, was the only thing that I had a question on. And then the last thing he shared was that they are continuing to work on handbook revisions, and they're hoping that in February they have a final document to hand to the superintendent's office. But that was his.
Thank you.
Raised a question, and that is with new hires, the question of benefits.
Yep.
Because last time we had a meeting, it was not a resolved issue where the money would come from for the most recent hires. And I continue to be concerned that, we have positions advertised the same as we've had them advertised before. And how can we hire somebody for a position if we can't offer them benefits?
I do have an update on that.
Good.
Yeah. So the town treasurer has told me that we have just enough to cover the positions that are available, including the van driver, should that be a benefited position. So for this current year, there would be enough for benefits for those positions.
And those are the school counselor, et cetera, or whichever.
Yes. Yep.
Good.
The ones that we've identified as needing currently.
That is very, very good.
Do you know if besides that position, if there are other positions that they're still hiring for? Like, did they find all the paras that they were looking for?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know where we're at with that.
I happen to know that there's still, there's still room for a part-time para.
Okay.
It's not a full, it's some percentage, and I don't know exactly, but that would be, as a para. There's still a little, maybe like 0.4.
But other than that,
There have been some new hires
Okay.
for paras, yep. And
Awesome.
hopefully that BCBA will come through.
Okay. All right. Good question. That's it for the principal report. Budget and Personnel Committee report. We haven't met, so there isn't one. Union 28, next meeting, January 22nd at 6:30 p.m. We do need to come up with a a negotiating team for the Unit B contract that is gonna be, negotiated. So we need to, we had tabled that as well, hoping that we had a fifth member by that point. We don't, so we need to move forward with that selection tonight so that we can get going on the negotiations. Unit B is ready to start, so we need to move forward with that.
And we need 2 people, right?
Yep. Would anybody like to be on it?
I nominate Caitlin and our chair.
How do you feel about that, Caitlin?
That works.
Okay.
I'm gone a week in February, but I think as long as we can move around that, we'll be okay.
All right, so there's a motion, we need a second. We'll just, are we okay with doing it together, or do you want to do it individually? There was a nomination for
let's do it.
2 of us.
Together.
Everybody okay with that? Okay, so we need a second then.
Second?
Okay. You said you're fine with that?
Yep.
Okay, so all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay. All right, I will let Unit B know. Update to the job description for the van. The only update, well, actually, there's 2 updates. One is that, the hours have been decided on at 20 hours, and so that needs to go into the job description. And then the other one is on the back, the very last bullet point. If no students need to be transported on a regular scheduled school day, the driver will be paid for 3 hours. This was something that I looked into, our consultant said is pretty common across the board. And honestly, other districts even, you know, have different, some districts pay less hours, some districts pay more. So 3 hours was right in a reasonable range. So that's an addition from last month, so we just need to vote that so it's clear. And then we can finally get this ad put out. And I want to thank the union for working so quickly on their end to agree to this so that we can move right along.
Can I make a comment or
Sure?
just language? I'm guessing it was pulled, and I wish I had seen this before, but if we can vote, it's like, doesn't really change anything about it. It's just, we name it bus, vehicle, and van throughout all the thing, and I just didn't, like, for consistency purposes, do we want to just call it a vehicle or just call it a van? If anything, I would take bus out of there. But it was just like, there's a couple bullet points, and we're just referring it all over the place. So just for consistency purposes.
I totally hear your point. I will say, just for ease of operation, this is simply to get the ad out. And
Okay.
then because they're being part of Unit B, and Unit B is negotiating in a
Yep.
hot second, we can
Okay.
fix that all at
Okay.
that point. It's just to get the main points down so we can
Going.
get the ad
Okay,
out. Yeah.
perfect.
But I hear you, and that's a good point. We should just, for clarity, make it consistent.
And then like where it says properly fasten and secure as required by mass law, is that saying this, their selves or the children or both? Like do you know what I mean?
Yep. Again, I would
Just move it on.
Where are you?
Okay.
bullet point under Keith's vehicle.
Yeah.
Right here.
Okay.
It's a state law anyway.
I would
Right,
say
but
that
I
the
didn't know
state
if
law
they're
is
responsible for
all of
buckling
it.
the children. Okay.
all of it. Yep.
Because I know that varies a little bit too. So.
Yep.
And then I'm guessing it doesn't need to be said, but like background checks.
It does.
All that.
It is. Yep.
I didn't.
It is in there because it definitely
That's what I thought, but
is
I
included.
Didn't. see.
Fall under town employee.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it had to be listed because I didn't find it anywhere, which I thought was odd. That's the only reason why I
Yeah.
called it out.
I thought it was in the original one.
Yep. It is, and it's also part of the requirement by law. So
Okay.
it even if not, law supersedes anything we say anyways.
Perfect.
So
Just
Yeah,
made me
the
a little
70
nervous.
pupil transport certificate.
Yep, 70.
have it in
Yep,
it.
yep, it does. So are we good with those 2 changes? The fact that it's 20 hours. Again, we don't have control over that.
Yep.
And the
Adding that last part. Yep. Do we
All
have to
right.
vote again?
Yep. Just to make it clean.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay. You want a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, this
So
is,
this will go out as an advertisement
I would say, when Pam can do it.
when people, yep.
Yep,
Okay.
I will let her know that we've voted, the union has agreed, so there's nothing else that needs to be done. Nope, we can keep on
Let's go.
moving. It was just over a year ago that we decided this, so I would say we've actually done really well. In a year, we've bought a van, we've, funded the van, we've put this whole thing together, we've created a brand-new position that the school never had before, so I think we've done pretty well. All right, so new business, we need to review the budget, and discuss it. Just out of curiosity, is there a pie report?
Yes.
Okay, okay, so
You want
let's
me to
start.
do that first, or?
If you want to, we can, yeah, sure.
Okay.
We can do the pie report first, we'll just rearrange slightly.
Well, I just didn't, it doesn't matter to me.
No, it's fine.
Okay, perfect.
If you're ready, if you're not, that's okay.
Yeah, I'll pull it up, it's right here. Just switching screens and tabs. Okay, so we had our pie meeting on the first Monday of December, which, if we want to put the date in, my calendar is in February, not helpful.
Third?
The 4th.
4th.
So on the 4th, we met, and it is still virtual. So we kind of just started the calendar raffle at that point, so we were talking about that. So that's where I'll put in the plug for anyone that has calendar raffles still home. Please turn them in by the end of this week. A dojo message was sent out, an email was sent out, a phone call was sent out, and if you're on the text system, I got a text today too. So get those calendars in. We're really excited about that, and it has been really well received, so that is exciting as well. All of the apparel store orders were due at the beginning of the month, and they came in today, so they will be ready for pickup starting tomorrow. And if the school does not hear from you, they are just going to send them home, I believe, in backpacks on Thursday. So if that is something you don't want your child to see, make sure you make arrangements to get those picked up. Otherwise, they will be sent home. Same with original artwork. So those came in as well, and those will be sent home this week. So those were 2 additional fundraisers that were in December that have been that have ended. And then I think that was pretty much it. Yeah, the next meeting technically falls on the 1st of January, and that is a holiday, so we won't be meeting then. There is talk about moving it to the 8th if that works for everyone, so we're still determining that. But as I mentioned last time, I am keeping the Facebook site up and running, and we've been having Pat or Karen add it to Class Dojo as an update. So as always, the more the merrier, so all families are welcome to attend. It is virtual to hopefully make it a little easier so childcare isn't needed. And really just, pop in, say hi, share some new ideas, hear what's going on, and don't feel like you have to come each and every month. If it's something you can only do once in a while, or you just want to hear what's going on, we welcome that. So hopefully we have a few more faces and families joining us next month. So keep an eye out on that, on when that will be.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go back to the budget. Again, I think it's gonna be a little bit tricky. We don't have our business person here or superintendent, or our principal, so it's gonna be a little bit tricky to answer some questions, but I think it's worth going through and making some notes, and we will try and get the answers for our next meeting. Who would like to start?
I'll start with something I have. Well, one is not a question I think we can answer. The questions are the same, though. The second one is one we should be able to answer. The principal's salary and the superintendent's salary, people who are not going to be here during this budget year, have had increases added to the budget as if they were staying. Mm-hmm. And while I'll say at this point for the principal, if he was staying, which I would say that's a fine percentage, I can see it. However, he said at the beginning that he wasn't, and the superintendent said that he was for 1 year until we get somebody new. So I don't feel that that's an appropriate thing to have. I feel like the increase shouldn't be there. What we should have in our budget is a rounded number based on what, you know, he is making now, with the assumption that as we do a search, there's probably better chance, but, you know, an equal chance at least, that we might get somebody that we would be able to hire for less. There are people, I mean, I can think of 2 principals who came right from teaching, and my impressions of their schools are that they are really, really well-run schools. And, you know, obviously if we were hiring somebody who was a teacher, and this was their first principalship, we probably wouldn't be offering them what we offered him. So I'd like to take that one out of there, the increase out of there.
What number is that?
28, line
Right
28.
off the beginning.
Okay.
You should buy
And
one
the
of-
superintendent is
Yep.
6.
Eric,
Yeah.
you should get one of these things. It's
No.
real helpful for
Not
going
yet.
line by line.
I'm only 58.7.
I'm just gonna put my glasses on.
When I hit 60, remind me.
Yeah, you got a ways to go before you get to me. The second thing is, I'd like to make sure that we leave materials and such like that roughly where they were before. I don't want to cut into, you know, the quality of instruction, and quality of instruction is to some extent, you know, not totally, but to some extent dependent on what you have to use. Speaking as a former teacher. But then, now back to, you want to go on with things to lower?
Why don't you go line by line, just
All right,
because it's
all
easier
right.
for us to follow you.
Okay, so
You talked about line 28.
28, so I don't have anything that I really know anything about here. I'm trying to find, there was something someplace that was drastically underutilized, it seemed like. I'm not totally clear, but maybe you can pick it out. You've got some yellow lines in there.
Yes, I do. So line 45, 46, nothing has been spent out of them currently based on our monthly monthly budget that we get. And so I question whether that's really an appropriate amount to have. Line 45 and 46, the professional development substitute salaries, regular and sped. I do recall that I asked about this last budget cycle. We haven't used as of this is as of 12/31. We have not used any money in either line. And we're just about halfway through our year. So so that's one where, I don't know if that's what you were speaking of, but.
Well, that would be a place where I'm not sure the reason why it wasn't spent. Sometimes we've gotten, when we talked about why didn't a line get spent, it was because we weren't able to find the person to spend it on.
Yep.
And my sense is if that's the reason, well then I'd be willing, if we're willing to go through and make a lot of substantial cuts in different places, that if we lower an area like that partially, then we probably would be able to find the money to afford if somebody was hired or found to be hired for that particular role. These are professional development substitutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why they're not spent, and whether it's because professional development is happening on half days or something, or what, I don't know. That may be why
We
it's
were
not
also
spent.
told at one point that they still weren't able to differentiate, but they wanted to keep it there because they were hoping the new system could do it. So I think that's a question too, is it worth keeping them separate? Do we need them separate, or do we just lump them together?
Either way, in year 22, we didn't spend it anywhere near it. In year 20, fiscal year 23, we didn't spend it or haven't spent it.
Right, there
and
was,
we-
like,
And we're in
reporting
24 and we haven't spent it.
issues.
So, how many more years are we just gonna leave money there?
I'd say no, we take it, cut it.
I mean-
And if there's a concern and other rationales, then we, cut it by 2/3 or something to leave something in case. But otherwise, if we follow that general rule in places where it's unclear and we make some cuts but not all, there will be money there for some things, if you follow me. Now you're getting down close to where I had another concern. And now I'm down to line 54. Even with my glasses and the magnifier, I don't always get the numbers. 54. I'm down to 54.
Okay.
Field trips.
You're right. Now, is there anything in between there that needs consideration?
In line, again, in line 47, the professional development contracted services, we also have not spent that line for 3 years now. And so I would like to know specifically what they're anticipating using $15,000 on. What is the initiatives that they are spending, that they are contracting out for professional development? Because again, the last 3 years, we have not used that line anywhere near its budgeted amount. So that's a question. And then, again, textbooks and instructional materials. What is needed? We have the ESSER money to buy things that are longer term textbooks. And so really, I'd like to have that a little bit clarified as to what more is needed, that we need to have $10,000 in there for. Last year, we spent $1,100 out of it. The year before that, we spent $8,000 out of it, but still not to where it was budgeted. And then instructional supplies, same thing. It was budgeted at $17,000, and then we jumped it up to $20,000. Last year, we spent $4,700 out of that budget. So I would suggest, kind of like what Mark is suggesting, that we reduce that line by a little bit, not get rid of it, but reduce it, because it does not seem like we are spending it.
And that might have had something to do with the freeze most of last year.
Well, we didn't freeze until the spring.
It was like February, March.
No, I think it was later. Yeah, I want to say it was at least March or April, because we were concerned about the budget all of a sudden.
And I wrote down that too, looking at that line item and cutting it, not necessarily increasing it back up to what it was before.
Yeah.
But also being mindful of knowing it's there, but let's just think of what we're really using it for.
Yeah, I mean, I would like-
not just buying stuff to buy stuff because it's there.
Exactly. Some clarification of for what we are anticipating that being spent on. So now we're up to you, Mark.
Okay, the field trips and programs, if they're not spent to the degree that they're funded significantly, and field trips and programs are also can also be spent out of other departments' budgets. I can guarantee that there's money available for anything in the way of a field trip and a performance, or an activity that has anything to do with the outdoors, trees, it doesn't even have to be outside. The Conservation Commission has money available. I know that the Cultural Council has money and is already talking to the school about putting together an event that would fall into this category. So I would say that, I don't know what was spent last time.
I think the last
4,800.
2
So if
years, we just have to be mindful that that's not necessarily reflective of what a normal year would look like, because we're slowly ramping back up from COVID.
Well-
Not to say the amount can't be changed or not looked at, but just to be mindful that they have really not been allowed to do much because of COVID. And even the year before that, they had to be super cautious. And last year it was a lot of stuff going on that didn't allow them to even do end of year field trips or that half of the year because of everything else that was going on at the school. So I do see it getting up to that amount if they went back to their normal field trips that each classroom typically did before COVID. So like I know that certain classes haven't been going on trips that they normally would do for whatever reason. But
So if it was spent at 4,800 and it's been budgeted at 1,000 and 10,000, excuse me, and that hasn't been spent for a few years, and because of the situation in the town, there are other people making offers to help fund things in the school, then I would suggest that we would lower the budget item, even as low as 6, and really, appeal to those other people and say, well, you said you would pay for something, so step up and pay it, please, help us out. As I said, I'm aware of at least one thing that's, I believe, is going to be funded through the Cultural Council, and and the Conservation Commission offered to spend money, and that's not budgeted money. That's not going to affect the town budget, and it's, to some extent, the town budget is what I'm concerned about, because I think the way the town budget went down last year caused a significant amount of division within the town among people that have talked to me, and it's like, enough of that, without going anywhere. As long as we're talking about things where we can still fund the events,
Okay.
We should go with it.
Are you making a recommendation like $8,000 instead of 10?
Yeah, I'll go with 8. I mean, that'd be $2,000 would be saved. We could go lower than that, because I'm pretty sure that you can get those events covered.
Well, the problem with any event today, everything's just skyrocketed because of the price of fuel, price of getting the kids there.
And this
Well-
is next year, not this year, so.
Well, I'm also saying that the money from which you could turn to ask is not money, is as large as this, and is not money of the in the town budget. It's in town savings account. So, if I go back to like I did last meeting and switch hats, I mean, I can guarantee we got the money. Yeah, we buried a pot of gold up on the top of Popper Mountain, and we can just dig it out if we need it.
So are you comfortable with 8 as Eric suggested?
I'll go with 7. I want
7?
money available. I don't want this budget to be.
We're not
up and
voting
up and
on
up.
it, no, but you can absolutely speak.
Yeah, because this is the first year that we've really been doing field trips again. This is the first year that I already have done one field trip with the preschoolers that we had to pay for. We are using the town as a resource. We're going to the library, we're going to the senior center. But some field trips that you plan, they have to go along with your standards. They have to make sense to your learning, right? You do the end of the year fun stuff too, but other things that you're doing, you're planning because they go along with your curriculum. It's not easy to plan a field trip. Most teachers do it on their own time. So if we're going, we're trying to like finagle it to kind of work and find people. I don't know. I just feel like with 10 classes, if we cut our field trip money down to $7,000, when I feel like the initiative in this town has been like, please do more. We're not going to be able to do more. We're going to be doing less.
Well, I would agree with you. The initiative from the town is to do more. Everybody I talk to says we need to be seeing the things we used to see.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that there's $10,000 available. It's just not going to be in this budget. It's going to be, there's $3,000 out there that just needs to be asked for with a proposal.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying that, like me as a teacher, what I was doing at the beginning of the year, we were talking about monarch caterpillars. We went to the Butterfly Museum. That's a field trip that matches my curriculum, that matches my students' interest.
And that's something that, we do year to year. I don't go to that museum every year, but we study caterpillars year to year. So
Can I ask how much that trip cost?
I don't recall, to be honest with you.
Because
Most of it goes towards the bus.
Bus, yeah.
I think it's like almost $300 just for it to leave the station. And then it just adds on to that. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, see, when I heard of that field trip, I was wondering, is that $1,000 field trip?
Like I said, I don't know.
'Cause
I know the portion that we paid to them wasn't a lot. Like the Butterfly Museum, because I actually
But the
paid out
bus
of
is
pocket,
certainly
got
a lot.
reimbursed. It was like 150, maybe 200. I don't know. It wasn't that much, but I don't know the cost of the bus and all that stuff. Pat does all that, so I have no idea what the cost was.
I think, I mean, I hear your point, and I think what Mark is trying to say is, I think the town departments that he's referencing, the Cultural Council and the Conservation Committee, your butterfly thing would work. So instead of just the proposal going to the school, a copy of it would go to the Conservation Committee, and they would just be the ones funding. It would be it wouldn't be you, it would be, the invoice would go to them, and so I don't think it's more work on the teacher end, it's just a little bit more
It's more
paperwork.
constricting on what you'll be able to choose to do for your field trips.
I don't think so.
I don't think so at all. I mean, I haven't heard of anything that couldn't be funded one way or another. And again,
So I'm just thinking of like 6th grade, how they used to go, like, I don't know if it was here they went to DC, but you went somewhere, you
New
went on a
York.
big trip. So like, I'm just thinking of all that kind of stuff. If we're pulling away from field trips, we're pulling away from that stuff, and that's the stuff that's been.
I don't want to
But
reduce
that's,
field trips.
right, I think that's a misunderstanding.
Okay, because it's sounding just like we're getting field trip money reduced from 10,000 to 7,000 with like a window of what we can choose for our field trips through the
That's not what
conservation
I'm saying.
committee.
No,
He just wants to cut the budget here, but use funds from the other committees in the town. The other committees in the town are willing to help, okay?
We're particularly, I mean,
Like financially help, like pay for buses and
Yeah.
things like
Yes.
that? Ah,
Yeah.
yeah,
see,
I
that's
mean,
not what I was
Like,
understanding.
if you go to Magic Wings, the Conservation Committee will pay that bill.
Pay for
Maybe
the
not for the
bus
bus,
trip to there.
but pay
Oh.
the cost at the Butterfly.
Okay, so it's not
We would
taking
pay
over
for
like
the
what they can do
entire
for field
field
trips, it's
Yeah,
just
the
funding
entire
for
field
the
trip,
field
Right.
trips.
The
Yep.
Cultural Council has a lot of stipulations, so that one is a little more tricky and it's due by a certain time and they
Yeah.
have.
So that would just be like.
I think the Cultural Council ones are a lot more, they have to be like planned out and thought out and there are a lot more stipulations, just as someone who's been on that committee before approving them and someone who has submitted to them. It's definitely a little more lengthy and it would have to be a little more intentional and couldn't just be like, oh, and this is what we're doing
Yeah.
next month, you know?
Yep.
But there are what sounds like pots of money in other places that if you are going to the Butterfly, hey, let's, instead of asking Pat for all
Yeah.
the money, just let's see if the Conservation Commission has it, or let's see if this has it, or let's see, and then that kind of thing, so.
now,
And
I
so
would-
what
I
would
would
the
say-
process of that be? That would be like, we go through Pat and she goes.
I
through-
don't know.
I mean, I think it would be the same thing as if you were asking the PTO to pay for something, right? So it's just an extra piece of paper, a form, so that the money comes from the right place, instead of,
Initially,
The school budget
if
would come from
somebody has
pie.
an idea and they can imagine that it might come from anything related to natural history or conservation, if they just write it down on a piece of paper, and first of the Conservation Commission meets first Tuesday of the month, and, or just give me a call or an email and say, hey, would you bring this up and see, because we have some untouched funds that we don't have any restrictions on, except that we want to use them for education, for, the broader goals of conserving things in the town. Yes, sir. Can we, you have to.
So the process would be to like kind of go through, like shoot you an email to say what we want to do, and
Yep.
then you'd have to bring it forth at the beginning of the month for a meeting. Like,
Yeah.
so it would have to be planned a little bit ahead of time.
Well, as soon as somebody thinks of it, And, I mean, we can't discuss things, just like any other meeting, can't discuss things outside of the meeting, but it's not a big deal. And we've already talked about doing it. So people are in agreement. You wanna-
Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you.
Well, hang on, actually, hold on, hold that thought.
Oh.
Are you able to hear? Are you?
Red bar.
Yeah. You gotta come to a table where there's a
I'll come
microphone.
up to the other table. Thanks. Not a problem.
Then you can talk.
Sure. Now my paperwork's over there. My suggestion was going to be leaving it at 10,000, and the reason I say that is you're looking to introduce a new process of attaching additional funds from outside sources, and there's processes to that. There's, submitting applications to the Cultural Council, submitting applications to Conservation Commission. That process hasn't happened before. It's not flushed out, that it's just an ongoing thing. They happen all the time from the general public, and various sectors do it, but it's not the standard practice that a teacher is looking for a ongoing field trip that happens every year. They submit their request, it goes to the principal, the secretary and the administrative assistant files it, they find the right line item, it gets deducted out of the line item, the bill gets paid. That's the very simplistic way. I think you should do them both simultaneously. Leave the dollar amount there to ensure that as we increase the field trip usage, you have the funds there, but also encourage what you're talking about is addressing some of the outside funding sources that are there. See that play out for a fiscal year. And then if you can really maintain the level of service by using outside sources, then you've proven that need no longer exists. So,
I just want to respond and say, we've already funded a garden here, we already funded a path in the back. We did some practical things last year that didn't involve funding. Well, maybe it was the year before, but I know we did supplied some other needs for classes.
Those are not field trips, though. Those are different. The process of getting the funding is different. That's
What
all
about
I'll say.
this, Mark? And now I'm gonna ask you to put that hat on for a second. Would the Conservation Commission consider a proposal of funding $3,000 to the school to be used for field trips related to conservation or whatever parameters you want to put on it, and then just have that chunk of money be transferred? The PTO, when it was a PTO, would do that. They would just gift basically X amount of dollars into the field trip line before it was budgeted in at quite the level that it is now, and then ask for at the end of the year some sort of reckoning as to what the field trips were that the money was spent on. Do you think that therefore individual teachers would not have to be drawing down that money each time? It would just be a lump sum that was given to the school with the stipulation that it was to be used for field trips related to however you want to make it, whatever parameters you want to put on it.
I think I'd have to bring that up with the next meeting.
Yeah, all right,
And,
I'm not asking
and I
you
would
to speak for
say
them
that
except to
that
slightly
could-
speak for them.
And I'm not sure how that works, but that sounds quite reasonable to do.
And then that would take that out of it. It would just be, much like the PTO used to do, just a amount of money that was transferred into that line, knowing that was there, and then, that you could ask at the end of the year, what they used it on, and they could share what field trips they went on, that money was funded
Yeah,
for.
that sounds like a reasonable thing. I will bring it up at the next meeting.
That might be a way to deal with that, and then that circumvents that whole issue. We're not voting on the budget tonight, so that's something that we could potentially look into and get back to us about.
Before flipping, I just put an asterisk, because we still, and I think that was highlighted from the minutes from the last one, is a breakdown of roles from each staff salary line. So not just line 38, which had already been requested, but to see how many staff are in classroom teacher salary, regular special ed teacher salary, regular specialist teacher salary, and not necessarily, I don't need names or anything, but a breakdown of the roles. So in this, we have, 5 classroom teachers, and in this, we have 4 specials teachers, and maybe differentiating which specials are covered with, FTE might be helpful, because I know there's a little bit of difference there, but I don't know, is that something that you can email Caitlin about, or you
Yes,
want me
we
to?
did.
Okay.
We did ask for it, but I'll ask for it again.
Just basically within, each line, this is what it's funding. And because the part of that was on the back, but when we flipped it over, the school psychologist's salary is an individual line item.
Yeah, there's a
and
few.
So, does that mean that if there is an adjustment counselor or a BCABA or, another school psychologist, that all goes, depending on which role it is, needs to have its own line, or everyone gets lumped in except for the school psychologist? Just one of those kind of questions.
Yep, okay. So as we flip,
Are you back on page 3?
nope, I'm on
Four.
page 4. Did you have
Page
anything
four.
else
There.
for page 3?
No, I think we've
Got
done
to the end of
page
that?
3.
Okay. Line 55, instructional technology materials, excuse me. I just want a little bit of clarification as to exactly what is spent out of that line. What would we expect to be paying for? The next one I have is, I have a Union 28 question, so I'll skip that. Next one I have is line 70. Does anybody have anything before 70?
I just had 66. They zeroed it out, which is fine, because does that mean they're also just going to get rid of it too? Like, do we need to still have it there if we're going to zero it out? I don't even know what it is.
I don't know if that's a bookkeeping thing. You have to keep it. Anything else before 70?
Nope.
So again, 70 after school academy. In our updates of our monthly expenditures, there's been nothing spent out of that so far, and yet there's $5,000 budgeted there. So is there an expectation that something's going to happen, or do we need to continue to have that line? And then same with 71, experiential learning. Very little has been spent out of it this year. Out of a $10,000 budget, $125 has been spent out of it. So I know it's been reduced, but again, are we expecting something more to happen next year that's going to be using that line? I'd like a little bit of information about that. I also wonder, along that same line, where the funding is for the LSC. Several times more than several times, we have asked about the LSC. And I'd like to know where that is funded in this budget. So that's just a general question. And then my next is 87. So
I just have a note on 74, just seeing if we have found out any additional information now that it has been declared free lunch for all of Massachusetts. And will certain grants that we currently have be affected? Will there be additional grants? Like, what does that money grant situation look like now that all of Massachusetts is free and reduced lunch?
I will also piggyback on that again, in our monthly expenditure report, nothing has been spent out of food service line. So I kind of wonder about that. Why has there not been nothing out of it? And if that's the case, that we are in the end of December and nothing has been spent out of that, do we need to have that line there at all? And if we do we need to fund it the way that it is? Anybody else before 87? Because that's my next one. 87 is technology, maintenance, and supplies. Again, Just want a little bit of explanation about that. Historically, not much has been needed, and very little has been spent so far. So I would just like a little bit of explanation as to what we're feeling the needs are to keep that line budgeted the way it was last year, even though not much has been spent out of it. And then I'm all the way down to 98, so.
98?
98. Acquisition of new equipment. We talked about this last year. Very little has been spent out of that line so far this year. Again, what are we acquiring for new equipment, and what do we foresee next year needing, that we need that line? And
Doesn't that go together with the next line is replacement of equipment?
I mean, yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I agree. I have that down here as well.
I mean, it's like,
Again, this one in our monthly is overdrawn. So what was bought out of it, and what do we need for next year? Are these capital things? Are they, what are they? I just need a little more information. What are we replacing? What kind of equipment? That's it.
Good question.
Lot of questions. So we'll be looking to get these answered next meeting as we look ahead to our actual public budget hearing. Go ahead, Scott. You should just move.
I know you don't set the budget, but in discussions earlier on the Gil Montague report, you mentioned Gil Montague stating that they're,
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the secondary budget?
yes,
Okay.
I thought you already did. Sorry.
Okay, all right, so let's, so nothing more on the elementary before we move on to secondary?
No, I didn't have anything on the last page.
Okay. All right, so then we'll move on. I know. Erving secondary budget. So you're asking about the,
In the report, you had mentioned Gil Montague stating that they're anticipating a 3%, no more than a 3% increase. The budget reflects a 9.4% increase. So that's a big discrepancy. Also, if you look back, we level funded in 22 and 23, and in both years, we turned back 152 and 97,000 respectively for those 2 years.
Yep.
We level funded for this year, and there's still capacity in the year-to-date for expenditures to be absorbed within that. So while it says 9.4%, if they're anticipating a 3%, that would mean that they're anticipating spending like 1.57 million in secondary, and they're not going to hit that. They haven't come close to that in 4 years. So there's quite a discrepancy in that line item and there has been for years, based
Yep.
on actual enrollment versus anticipated enrollment, and they have never aligned in the last 10 years. So just to keep an eye on that one when we're discussing the overall budget for education inclusive of the secondary, because that's a big discrepancy.
Yep. That's a good point.
I know she mentioned last time that she was looking at enrollment, but did she say that she thought enrollment was going to increase for the number of students?
I don't know. I don't
Okay.
I don't know what she said. I don't remember what she
Wasn't
said.
last year's sixth grade class really small?
No, they were big. 'Cause- oh, no,
No.
they were
No.
just 2 of them for other reasons.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there were,
I think there were 12, yeah. And are there
yeah,
13?
actually.
14?
We have to listen to it.
Well, I, is it 12?
This year? Are you asking
Sixth
about?
grade has 13.
This year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last year had 12, the year before that
Year
was
before,
6.
there was 14 in fifth grade last year, so then it's 13 this year, is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, but I'm
That's
talking,
according to the principal report.
Right, in the year before, didn't
Last
sixth
year.
grade was only like 6, 7 kids?
But there were 2 of them
2 sets of.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's right.
So it was 12.
So give or take one kid, it's about the same.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. We're not seeing huge
Yeah.
shifts. All right, so, good question about secondary. We'll have to get some clarification on that. And with all the other questions we had on the elementary budget. All right. We're up to the Erving Subcommittee to examine the pros and cons of staying or leaving Union 28.
The subcommittee voted at its last meeting that given the need to find a new superintendent and subsequently a need to find a new principal, that continuing to have discussions might just muddy the waters, and that we would like to sort of not dissolve, but to suspend what we're doing at the moment until these questions start to come out, get straightened out. I will say that several people have said they would continue gathering information and putting it in their joint folder so that eventually when we get started up again, we can, it'll be there for us to assemble and potentially make a report. There was a possibility of putting together a questionnaire for the community to express its opinions in favor of some different things, but that may also be on hold until we find out where we stand with a superintendent and where we stand on a principal.
So, I have a couple of thoughts about that. I can understand and the thought process with that. Certainly, we want to make sure that we are attracting good quality people, that the school and the district, the Union 28 look attractive to potential candidates. But I also think that there was a good amount of voices that asked for this committee and asked for information on the pros and cons. So I think we need to value that. So while I am agreeable to suspending, putting a hold on the committee, I'm not, I want to make clear we're not dissolving the committee. I think it's worthwhile information to gather. I think regardless of what we decide, it's worthwhile. I know, we ask our teachers to reassess their curriculum to make sure it's fitting the needs of the students. We ask the administration to look at the way that the schools are run to make sure it's fitting the needs of the students. I think it's worthwhile that we look at our union seat to make sure that it's fitting the needs of our town and our students. So either way, I think this is important work that should be done, and I think all 4 schools should be doing it to make sure that what we have is fitting the needs of the towns and the students. So, so I would be in favor of suspending with the understanding that we will pick this back up again and continue this exercise, because I think it's important work that should be done.
I was going to say one other piece, and that is that in discussing with outside individuals the process and what goes on in a community that sets up an independent school, that or an independent district for their own school, that it requires some time to take place, that it would not be something that we could do within the time frame that we have in which we would be hiring a new principal or a new superintendent. That's number one. And number two, it takes a fair amount of unanimity within a community. And as the initial information we gathered, there was a decided division within the community about the question. So to move forward at this point without some sense that there's a significant part of the community behind it, as opposed to a significant part of the community that's in favor and opposed, it just didn't make sense to move forward at this point.
Yeah, I want to be clear, I'm not in favor of one or the other. I'm in favor of the information gathering and the reflecting on it and looking at, is it still meeting our needs? Like I said, I think it's a worthwhile exercise that we should all be doing to check in. Is this union-C that we have what we need? Is it fitting our needs? Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but having the information, having done that, we would be informed in our thoughts about it. So I think that it's important work to do to gather the information so that we have a clear picture of what it means either way. So we will need a vote to direct the committee to do that, to kind of just stay in a kind of a suspended state, because we directed them to, we charged them with this task of looking at this information. So now we need to kind of just tell them to just
Wait,
wait, yeah. I don't know why I'm
Don't
trying to say it
stand,
any
but
other
wait.
way. To just put it on hold for now.
But didn't Mark say they're still gonna gather information?
Well, people on their own. I mean, we can't stop people
who have
from on their
started
own.
to find out information are going to find it out, that you continue to, pick it up and assemble it and put it in this one place that, we have for combining everything, so that when we start up again, we'll have the information together, or have more information available.
They just want to have formal meetings
Yep. Okay.
as a subcommittee. So that's the vote, that's the proposal that's on the table for us to vote on.
Okay.
So do we need a motion in a second, and then
So
we'll
I would
vote?
like to move that the subcommittee be suspended.
No, not suspended, just.
Yeah,
Yeah, suspended, not dissolved, just
okay,
suspended.
all right, suspended.
just suspended pending a vote to start their efforts again.
Okay. How do we feel about that? Is there a second?
Well, I don't like the word suspended.
What would you like? You want to make an amendment?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Maybe I'm just confused if it's late, but I thought the outcome of the committee was that it's not worth looking into at this time. So then was that committee voted, like a school committee appointed this search committee? So now the school committee has to approve their decision to stop. That's what's happening right now?
So right now what's on the table is not to stop in the sense of they're not ever going to do it again. It's to pause until after we go through the process of hiring a principal and a superintendent. So get that out of the way, and then pick this back up again to gather the information. It's a gathering of an information. That's the purpose of that subcommittee. It's not to make decisions one way or the other.
Sure, that I understand, to gather information. I guess it feels, I'm confused, because if this committee already said it's not worth it,
No,
I
we
don't
didn't-
know.
No, we did not say it's not worth it. We said that to continue at this point would make it confusing to hire a new superintendent. It would make it confusing to hire a new principal. While there are valid ways of expressing the unknowns that a superintendent would face, because there are a number of them other than this. And there's also ways of expressing, making questions to a potential principal that express, some of the unknowns that we face without, without being discouraging to an applicant. We feel like it would muddy the waters for the hiring process. It's not, it's not that the study is not worth it. It's just not the time at the moment to keep proceeding until, these other things are in place.
If, say we left the union, this is just a quick question, say we left the union, whoever becomes our principal has to have superintendent qualifications too, is that correct?
Correct.
So if we get a new principal next
Wait.
year, or would we
Can
be
you speak
making?
louder?
What part?
I didn't hear the first part, what you said.
My question?
Yeah.
My question was, if we pull out of the union and we have a principal, does that principal have to have like superintendent qualifications?
No, there's,
Yes.
there's no, that's not right.
Hang on, let Mark, and then you can,
What appears to be the case for several other places where there are superintendencies or single schools or just, there have to be the roles, and there have to be the certificates for principalship, and there have to be the certificates for superintendent, but there's absolutely no necessity. In fact, most cases, they're not the same person. They're separate persons.
Who would be superintendent?
Yeah, it's like you might have a, like a 2-day-a-week superintendent, and then a full-time principal.
or you could have a teaching principal.
Or a teaching principal.
half-time principal,
There's a
half-time
multitude
teacher.
of ways to do it, and, it's,
The only reason for my question is that we've just been through a lot of principals. And if
Pardon?
we're going, my only concern, the only reason I asked that question is because we've been through a few principals, and if we get another new principal next year, and that principal isn't able to, transfer his role for his or her role from being principal, like if we pull out of the union, would that mean we're gonna have to look for another new principal? That's just my worry, I guess.
Yeah, so we're not, first of all, that would take, that would be a process, right? So it wouldn't be something we would be able to do quickly. And second of all, I don't know that we'd ever get to that point. I don't know that we would ever pull out of the Union C. They're good questions to ask, but it's all in theory. There's no decision made. So down the road, lots of things could happen.
Next year, if we resume this committee, it wouldn't be within that next year.
No.
We would start.
I don't see how we
a few
possibly
years,
would do that. Yeah.
It would be nice to have the same principal for a few years.
And I think so we meet as a supervisory committee with all of the school committee members, appointed school committee members from the other schools. And I think part of the discussion that happened there too was how, as a union, can we work together and hear what other needs are in other schools, and how can we help each other out and get those needs met. And so I think part of that is we don't know what those needs are because we've never had that. We've never kind of set that self up to reflect on what is working, what isn't working, what are our needs, what has changed at Erving, what hasn't changed at Erving, and what does that look like compared to Leverett, Swift River, New Salem and stuff. And so I think this conversation has kind of sparked that opportunity for reflection. And I know that was brought up at our last meeting of hey, you know what? As Mackenzie said, this is something that everyone should just do. And it's more of how are things going for us in our spot, and then being able to say, okay, you know what, these things actually aren't working for us. Are you guys seeing that same problem? Oh, you are? Oh, okay, then as a union, maybe we can come to a conclusion, or we need to hire someone else. Or, oh, Erving's the only one that has this problem. Oh, now Erving has 5 different problems that the other schools don't see. Then how do we fix and help and be successful and still, make that decision?
That's what we get with our grade level.
Yeah, so I think that's that.
Exactly. You're always
that
reflecting on your
discussion.
practice, right?
Yeah.
And tweaking as you need. So this is us. That's the committee's job, is to gather all that information so that we can then make the next step, tweak as we need.
But it's nice when she's talking about when she's joining together with
Yep.
people from the other unions, so
Yep.
that's us. With our grade level meeting, we go, like, we just go Levering, and I got to meet with all the kindergarten and preschool teachers, and it was wonderful, because we did just what you said. What's, like, look at this preschool, this is, like, really working great, like,
Mhm.
what can we do to, you know? So, yeah, it's lovely
Yeah.
that you get to.
So it's
So-
really
An
opened up that
opportunity.
conversation too at that level.
Yeah, and so I think it's worth, so that's why, instead of suspend, maybe we could say, you know, put on hold. I mean, suspend does have kind of a negative
Postpone.
connotation to it.
If Mark can change his motion to, the committee is on hold.
Yes, I
Yeah.
change the motion. The committee is, yeah, you know, the committee would like to be put on hold.
Okay,
Second,
all right, so we, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye, yeah.
I forgot what I was saying. All right, I think that is a good plan. I like that idea. All right. Next up is our policy review and update. We have a second read, first vote, and we have final votes. I'd like to propose that we table this. We didn't have a policy committee meeting earlier today because of the superintendent not being able to attend. I have questions about some of these policies that we can't answer because we haven't had that meeting. So I would like to make a motion that we table these until January. January, you'll have a policy committee meeting. We can get, we can talk about what the questions are, get them
Second.
answered.
Oh.
Is that okay
That's
with you?
fine.
Okay. All right, so, so all in favor of tabling the policy review and update?
Aye.
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 Okay, great, thanks. So we'll look at that again in the January agenda.
As we go into future business, are we able to look at our calendars for February and determine a February meeting now, knowing that it's gonna have to change?
I'm okay with that. Eric and Mark, are you all right with that?
you wanna do the second Tuesday of the month?
That would be my recommendation. I'm gone that last week of February.
The second Tuesday,
February 13th.
February 13th.
Just as long as it's not the first.
I will say that the joint meeting to present the school budget is on the 12th. I don't know if that makes a difference to you all. Do you
okay,
want to have
Just do
it?
it all in one night, you mean?
No, I wasn't suggesting that. I was just pointing out that we either want to have the meeting the same day or the week before, which I understand would be close to the, well, no, actually, because January has 5 Tuesdays, so,
Like February 6th?
We're meeting the 16th in January.
we're meeting, what?
January 16th,
We're meeting January 16th, yep.
and then let's do February 13th.
February 13th would be the day after we jointly meet with the Select and FinCom. So
Okay.
do we want to do
you
our
wanna-
meeting?
You wanna do it Monday night before that meeting? We've done that before.
I just think we have a lot to discuss and we need to make sure that,
Okay, yeah,
oh
go
no,
ahead.
we have a lot to discuss in January, not in February.
Well, it's gotta, if it's not settled in January, it's gonna ride over into February.
Our meetings have been going for a couple hours, so let's just keep it on the 13th. So we'll meet Monday and Tuesday,
Wait, I'm not, you're talking about, which month are you talking about?
February.
But,
But I think what we're trying to say, Eric, is that maybe we should meet before the joint meeting so that we can resolve any last budget issues before we meet on the 12th with the
Okay.
Select Board and FinCom. Are you able to meet on the 6th, or,
I can't.
no, you can't, okay.
wait a minute, I can't meet any first Tuesday.
Okay, and neither can Eric, so sounds like that's out.
We win, Mark.
Yep. You guys
Do we know
win.
what time that,
7.
next door?
Yep. So, I mean, we could do it at 6, we could do it at 5:30. What do you want to do?
Can I bring my dog?
I don't know that,
No, he wouldn't.
that Paula would appreciate that.
Yeah, no, he doesn't.
Why don't we just table it till next month, decide in January?
Well, I don't mind meeting on the 12th at 5:30. Can people do that?
Yeah,
Can you do the 12th at 5:30? Mark?
You're talking about February,
Yep,
5:30?
yeah, it's a
Oh,
Monday.
yeah, I can do that.
It's before our joint meeting.
And we
Yep.
would be here and then move there.
Yeah, I guess so. Yep. Okay, so we'll put that on,
2/12.
June 12th.
June.
Nope, February 12th.
I said 2.
I know, I just followed you.
No, I said 2.
Oh.
2,
Sorry.
12, 24.
Sorry. Yes, 5:30. So that will be a change
For February.
for February,
Okay,
simply
thank
because
you.
of
I
the
like that.
vacation.
I like that for-
All right, okay, can I bring something up? This is
Yep.
quick. And you hit my short-term memory here. The superintendent selection committee, did
Yeah.
I get voted onto it already?
Yes, you
Yes.
did.
Anyway, that's done.
That's the
Now,
first thing we did.
Yes, like I said, short-term memory.
Yep.
And I'm not taking the minutes. And the second thing is supervisory committee. I've been going. Was I supposed to be voted onto it to attend, or did we just go?
Anyone can go.
Anyone can go.
Only certain people can vote.
Caitlin and I are Caitlin, right?
I think so.
Okay. I think Caitlin and I are the official
Voters.
voters.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any problem going and not voting,
Okay.
because all I have to do is open my mouth.
The
every
more
once
the
in a while.
merrier.
Yeah, I've been going to those. I'm usually off camera, but I'm there.
I know.
Okay.
All right, so, so that would also mean that the policy committee meeting is gonna change to February 12th? Or is that good?
Just cancel.
We probably can just cancel it. Like, we can just move it to March. So the email that we had received about policy was basically that we're up to date, like we're caught up on all the stuff, and so now we're just going back to older ones that might be internal policies that Erving has, not necessarily ones that the Massachusetts School Committee Association has. So I'm thinking, I mean, we can talk at our meeting on January, but I think it would be okay to
You had
move
some
stuff
problems
till March.
Okay, so can I ask then that the policy committee, when they come with policies, to somehow note what the changes were? Because reviewed and edited, but I don't know what was edited. So it'd be helpful if you highlighted or underlined or somehow
Okay,
noted.
I think we're supposed to usually get like the you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it with a
but-
cross out.
Yeah, but this is what I
And
have.
I
and
don't
it
know if
says-
Jen does that or if she sends it to Pam, so,
Okay, if you could
I
just
can ask
forward that
her.
point.
I don't
I'll ask
I
as
don't
well.
have them. Do you know what I mean?
No, just the
Yes,
request
yes,
that I'm
just
making to you. I'll make it to her
show
as well,
edits.
but yeah, to show the edits.
Yeah, I mean, on this one, I think it's,
This one was, again, I didn't feel
This-
comfortable because I didn't know what the
this part.
changes were.
because there wasn't anyone that was designated and people were just making decisions over the summer. So I
Okay.
think that was the only thing, but yeah, no, show edits.
Okay, so we are going to make a motion to adjourn at 9:01. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Did you write the notes? She got those for writing the notes. All in favor? Aye.
Second.
All right. Thank you in the audience for attending. Happy holidays.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year if I don't see you.
And if you're available, come to the sing.
Yeah, the all
Oh,
school
come to the all school sing, yeah.
Oh, yeah, come on.